In our daily life, we receive, process, store, and retain a lot of information, sometimes instantaneously, in order to be able to carry out our daily activities. To handle effectively the volume of information we receive, our brain tends to categorize them into groups, notably those that share similar elements. Yet when examined closely, the content of each element clearly distinguishes it from the next. This strategy of categorizing, although enables the brain to deal with large volumes of information, can in fact cause problems when it becomes a rule of overgeneralization. Particularly when applied to individuals who are by nature uniquely different from one another in their mental and psychological traits.
Learning disabilities are disorders which lead to deficits in children's or individuals' understanding of what they hear and see, and deficits in linking the information which comes from various parts of the brain. Such deficits affect all areas. In linguistics, it is expressive language in either speech or in writing. Memory, attention, concentration, and muscle movements can be affected. All these things together express themselves as deficits in reading, writing, or in memorization.
نايف سعد كريم سعود حمد أنا قايل لك إذا استمريت على هالدرجات راح تسقط على بالك تعدي هالمادة هذا بدون تعب بلا كلام فاضي أنا بفعل.
Children with learning difficulties tend to have an average IQ. They are usually smart, and in some cases their intelligence is higher than children of the same age group who are able to read and write. Their problem, however, revolves around their schoolwork.
Each time my teacher says something, I forget it. I ask her to repeat it, and I forget it again. I have difficulty learning Arabic, English, religion, and math.
I used to have problems, but now I don't. But I still struggle with concentrating. If one of the students taps on his desk with a pencil, I just can't concentrate.
I can read the words, but it's hard and it takes a long time.
In my old school, I was weak in math, Arabic, and English.
My main problem in math is multiplication. In 5th grade, I was only able to memorize my 1, 2, and 3 times tables. I couldn't understand the exam papers, and then, even after my teacher had explained it all, I forgot the instructions. That's why my grades were so low.
I have problems with multiplication, division, and especially long division, and when I'm asked to memorize and recite.
I was weak in written Arabic. My problem was understanding the grammar. If you say to me, Ahmed ate the apple, I wouldn't understand the grammatical structure of this sentence.
The most common types of learning difficulties are dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. Dyslexia is a difficulty in reading, spelling, and in dictation. Dysgraphia is a difficulty in writing, as the child's handwriting is illegible, rather than a reading problem. Dyscalculia is a difficulty in doing math problems. Other problems include ADHD and dyspraxia, which could also negatively impact on the learning process.
In my opinion, dyslexia is the most important difficulty of them all because reading is such an essential skill. Researchers say that during the first 4 years of school, the child learns to read, while in the following years he reads to learn. So if he has a problem in learning to read, he will face problems in other areas of learning.
يطرحها في البحر وتستمر
Some of my students read with an unclear voice in a slow manner. They often reverse the letters so that Sarah becomes Rasa, and they may add or eliminate letters.
العصفور واقف على الغصن
My main problem is Arabic. I used to hate studying because of this one subject.
I feel as if I'm nothing in this world.
If we fail to identify the symptoms of learning difficulties, the child often will suffer from low self-esteem. This can create emotional and social problems, and the child may also become disruptive in the classroom. He might try to gain the teacher's attention by talking in class, or he might believe that he's not able to learn and that he's below standard. So the unidentified student can suffer emotionally and psychologically.
انت لا دراسه لا ادب لا اخلاق. يلا قدام الناظر. يلا اطلع بابا. انا عندك شلون. يلا بسرعه يلا. يلا.
The first problem which faces children and their parents is to know where their difficulties lie. Mainstream schools often fail to recognize these problems and can even overlook them, resulting in more confusion and parental concern. Evaluation by experienced professionals is needed.
My relationship with my son became very tense. It was difficult, especially when I learned that a high percentage of delinquents in Kuwait suffer from learning difficulties, and parents do not know about this. I became so worried that I had to find a solution. I thought of how precious my relationship with my son was and was determined to save it.
أنا أحب
خلاص يبقى أنا درس.
In the mainstream school, up until 4th grade, my wife played a tremendous role in helping and teaching my daughter. She also used to take her to a tutor in the afternoons. We registered her in intensive summer courses, and of course, this was exhausting for a young child who had lessons from morning until night. It's like being a student all year long with no break. Despite all of this, there was no significant academic improvement.
وموطني
خليك معي بقى. أنا أحب موطني وموطني يحبني.
أنا أنا أحب موطني
موطني ركز معاي شوي. موطني مو موطني.
I felt puzzled and scared. I knew there was something, but there was no one who could understand me. Even at school, there was no one who could understand me. I desperately wanted to know what was wrong.
Parents may feel confused when symptoms of learning difficulties overlap with symptoms of behavior disorders such as ADHD.
ال 2000 سنتيمتر كم متر يساوي؟ عقول عدل. فيصل سعود ال 2000 سنتيمتر كم يساوي؟ كم متر؟
Some children may suffer from a learning difficulty called dyspraxia, a developmental coordination disorder which can make routine tasks, such as tying one's shoe and buttoning clothing, difficult.
أنا قايل لك إذا استمريت على هالدرجات راح تسقط. على بالك تعدي هالمادة هذه بدون تعب؟
موطني ركز معاي شوي. موطني.
بلا كلام فاضي. أنت لا دراسة لا أدب لا أخلاق. يلا قدام الناظر يلا. يلا اطلع برا. هذا عندك شلون؟
ما راح المدرسة ما راح المدرسة ما راح المدرسة.
If a teacher fails to identify a child's learning difficulty, this is a double-edged sword for both the teacher and the student. The teacher could wrongly think the child is not taking his studies seriously and is not paying attention. As for the child, he may wrongly think that the teacher does not care or does not take into consideration his special needs. In both cases, problems can arise.
Unfortunately, our society marginalizes these children and pays little attention to them. In many schools, you can see that these children who have learning difficulties are marginalized and are not valued.
They used to think that I didn't have anything worth saying.
They used to call him lazy, careless, and irresponsible. And unfortunately, sometimes they would even call him stupid.
There were some girls who used to call me stupid in school, and they said I was stupid and did not understand. It hurt, but I did not know what to say back.
Kids with learning difficulties are intelligent, and one of the requirements to evaluate them is that their IQ is within the normal range, which means that they are not retarded and not stupid. Retardation belongs to a different category of developmental problems.
ها بابا طفيت ليت دارك. روح طف ليت دارك ويجيب جنطتك ويجيب مفاتيح سيارتي عشان اوديك. وين الجنطة يبا؟
نسيتها.
Okay.
Parents need to realize that children with a learning difficulty might also have problems in remembering information in their short-term memory and recalling this information, in addition to potential problems they may have in organizing and keeping their personal belongings tidy.
Of course, whether it is a learning difficulty or any other, it is very important to get an early evaluation for the simple reason that early intervention gives us a greater chance of helping the child.
When assessing the child, the educational psychologist will examine 3 key areas to determine the type and the extent of their learning difficulty. These areas are the child himself, the child's immediate family, and the current school environment he is in, including teachers and classmates. Parents should not delay seeking appropriate professional help if they suspect that their child suffers from a learning difficulty. If you think your child may have a learning disability, check with your pediatrician if the child is not in school yet. Speak with the school psychologist if your child is in school. If necessary, seek an evaluation from an assessment center.
وسعود، النتيجة بينت أن ذكاء سعود طبيعي، ولكن عنده صعوبة تعلم.
يعني شنو صعوبة التعلم؟
يعني طريقة تعامل مخ سعود مع المعلومات تختلف عن الطلبة الثانيين، وقدرته على تخزين المعلومات والتعبير عنها مختلفة، وممكن الضعف هذا يبين في القراءة أو الكتابة أو الحساب، وممكن هالصعوبة تأثر على ذاكرته وانتباهه.
يعني راح يستمر ياخذ درجات واطية؟
لا يا أبو سعود، لا تفقد الأمل. في طلبة وايد نفس سعود لما درسناهم طريقة مختلفة تقدموا ونجحوا وتحسن مستواهم.
There are minor, moderate, and severe learning difficulties. In the case of the minor and the moderate, we can usually accommodate children's needs in the mainstream classroom by training the teacher. This is done through workshops and identifying different methods and tools to be used. For the child who has severe learning difficulties, the classroom has to be smaller, and the teacher has to be well-resourced, and he needs to know the strengths and weaknesses of his students. Information should be broken down, and repetition is important. Multisensory methods are essential to reinforce information.
The second problem that faces parents after the evaluation is dealing with the child's reaction and the psychological impact of moving to a specialized learning facility.
I felt so much pressure because society didn't understand the problem, and the problem was getting bigger and bigger every day. I was so worried that Omar would fall into bad ways, because learning difficulties are deep-rooted problems. If they don't get solved, this can lead to delinquency.
There is no magic cure for a child with learning disabilities. Intervention and training the child takes time and needs collaborative efforts from all professionals working with the child, such as medical doctors, educational psychologists, clinical psychologists, psychoeducational specialists, social psychologists, and speech and language specialists. We should also not forget the teachers and the role they play, and the especially important role of parents, too.
My family was very understanding about what I was going through, and they did not put any pressure on me or show any anger.
I know Omar faces challenges because of his learning difficulties, so I try not to punish him or use harsh words, because it will only make things worse. I often encourage him and give support. I treat Mohammed the same way I treat his sisters. The only difference is in the way I teach him.
The most important thing was that my family did not compare me to my brothers, because I was weak in Arabic and they were not, and that they were in mainstream schools and I wasn't.
I used to read some of the parent magazines, but they did not tell me about a specific center which could help us. After I registered my daughter in a specialized center, I started to read more and research the subject, and I began to understand my role as a parent.
When he first started at his new school, I told Mohammed, I won't get upset if you go there for one day and then tell me you don't want to go back. What was important to me was that he felt comfortable. After 1 month, he came to me and thanked me for sending him to this school. He said, "They understand me."
Research has shown that if the family is involved in training their child, his performance improves significantly in comparison to others without parental involvement.
Multisensory teaching methods should be used whenever possible for teaching children with learning difficulties, as these are most effective. Lessons should be based on a cumulative learning strategy where the student has to master a specific task before moving to the next. In addition, lessons must be structured because children with learning difficulties have problems with organizing, sequencing, and ordering information.
We're going to start with our verbs, worksheets. Then, if we have time, we're going to play a game. Okay?
Okay.
Now, open your verbs. 1. If you make food, you cook. Well done. Now use your sand and write the word cooker.
Khalid used to have a severe weakness in reading and multiplication facts. His writing was very slow, so he was behind in his class. He needed so much repetition because his memory was poor. I had to repeat things up to 4 times.
Every child who suffers from a learning difficulty should have an individualized education plan. The plan needs to be followed by teachers and psychologists to help the child, so he has a set program to follow, whether weekly or monthly.
What worked for Khalid was that I used fruit-shaped cards. Once we had a quiz and he forgot what 8 times 6 was. The minute I reminded him of the shape of the card, he got the correct answer. With the cooperation of the family, the student started to improve tremendously until he achieved high grades and no longer needed the cards.
No two humans are alike when it comes to comparing their individual abilities. And when we realize this, we are able to embrace our differences and ultimately complement each other.
What is important is that the parents, specialists, or the child himself do not worry about the reasons, but rather concentrate on how we can help this child to overcome his difficulties.
We are not born with skills, we learn them. My role as a mom is to teach the right skills to my son so he can overcome his problems. I teach him how to make friends and to manage his anger. I have a behavioral chart, and each week we focus on one type of behavior. Later, we talk about how he behaved each day. Omar used to get angry easily, and then I enrolled him in karate classes where he could release his frustrations.
Communication between the family and the school is crucial in helping the child. It is equally important to highlight the strengths of the child, for this increases his confidence and motivates him to overcome his difficulties.
These kids have many strengths. Most importantly, they are smart. A child might be interested in music, art, or computers, or anything else except reading.
If the child likes a specific sport or art, we can encourage him and train him to master it, because this will increase his confidence and self-esteem.
My family played a major role in making me feel strong rather than weak.
When I started taking my son to a specialized school, I used to wonder if he was comfortable. But thank God he is, and I'm proud of him.
I know I can overcome my difficulties. It is up to me whether or not I succeed.
So what if I don't understand? That's normal. I will just go to the teacher and she will explain it to me.
ما أنت إلا أنا بحب ترتوي منح النفوس فلا تجل سواك مهما غنمت من الحياة فلن أرى شيئا يضارع في الحياة رضاك.
من فوائد الإنترنت والخدمات اللي ممكن نستفاد منها
نلعب بالألعاب ونتسوق ونرسل رسالات ونحجز حق السينما.
تولد طاقة كهربائية نتيجة التحرك السريع للمغناطيس داخل الملفات الكهربائية.
Thank God I have overcome the problems I used to face, and I am now at the university.
وعدد خريجيها 167 خريجا وخريجة.
أنا أحب موطني وموطني يحبني. أهل الكويت كلهم أهل وفيها سكن.
Yes, we can achieve.
تلعب أصحابي معي فيها ويحلو زمني.
Excel.
ولي بها مدرسة دروسها تنفعني.
And meet our goals.
لأنفع الكويت بي غدا وأحمي وطني.
All we need is the right teaching style.